If you're like me, you've always wanted to lift your truck. Stock heights is just not cool. So, tell you what, why don't we put a 3-inch lift kit on the old Ford? Let's do that today. This is A&A. I want to walk you around. I've just started the lift kit, and basically what you have to do, you have to get to, now let me clear something up first. We're not doing a suspension lift, we're doing a body lift. Suspension lift, it's very expensive. You're doing special shocks. You're doing, oh gosh, it's all kinds of stuff, and we don't want to get into all that. A body lift is just simply, we're gonna increase the thickness of the spacers between the body and the frame. And so it basically requires you to pull the carpet up everywhere. There's a bolt for the body mounts. You see one down in there. There's one over there, and then two on the opposite side. Come up front here. I pull the carpet up because there's one down in that hole. Then there's one on the other side as well. All right, that's 6. Of course, you're gonna have these in the front. Let's see if I can get you in there and show you that. That's 8. Now the kit came with 10. So I'm thinking somewhere under this second row seating is probably 2 more. But I haven't gotten quite that far yet. You have to disconnect your battery, both positive and negative. You have to pull the fuse for your airbag because even with the body lift, you have to put a, let's see if I can get you in here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You have to put a spacer, an adapter actually. Won't be too dark in here for you to see. Nope, there it is. Yeah, it's a little dark, but anyway. So you disconnect that right there, which is the female portion that comes off your steering shaft, and then there's a, I don't know if you can see that anyway, there's a U-joint in there. So we put a special adapter onto the steering shaft that's now going to go into that, but we got the new adapter on. We can't slide that part on there yet because we got to get the body up first. We just have to disconnect that mainly, and we got the new adapter on, but we're going to leave it like that until we get the body up. Now also, we're going to have to remove this front bumper. We're working on the body lift kit. So what I've shown you so far, that's as far as I've gotten. And right now I'm going to finish taking this bumper off. And also what the instructions say do is have to remove this shroud, which is okay because I was going to remove it anyway for the electric fans. But in order to do that, you have to take that nice big 36mm shaft, whatever, you got to take it loose, and you have to remove the fan and the shroud at one time, because there is no room to remove the fan before the shroud, the shroud before the fan. So I've got that broke loose. You know, the Auto Parts Loaner Tool program is a very good thing. Got that broke loose. I've got the fan shroud. I've got it unbolted. It's sitting in the clips down below. So we'll pull all that out and get that out. And then we'll move on to the next step in the instructions. But it's pretty involved. I didn't realize it was this involved, but you know, it makes a lot of sense. Even if you lift the body, you're affecting some things. Also, we got a new valance, which is this nice tan part down here. We've got a new one of those that have the cutouts for the tow hooks, because we're putting tow hooks on the front. So let me get this bumper off and we'll take a look at the next step. The bumper is off. Next step. Fan and shroud are out. Next step. Remove the bolts that hold the transmission cooler and the power steering cooler. Done. Next step. Remove ground wire, body ground to chassis wire underneath the passenger side door. Frame, body, ground wire. Done. Next. Disconnect the wire coming from the battery going to the frame. Disconnect, remove the bracket. Done. Next step. Steel lines that run from engine compartment to the rear of the vehicle along the frame rail. Loosen the first two brackets. So this one and the little plastic retainer just slipped out of the hole, so that's fine. And it did the same thing here. So they're still together. The little plastic retainer just slipped right out of the hole because the plastic's rotten. So that's great. No problem. Step done. Next step. Remove the fuel cap. Remove the 3 retaining bolts that hold the filler neck to the body. The hose will have to be modified before we reconnect. Is it too late to turn back on this thing now? Lord, I reckon. Remove the 4 bolts holding the rear bumper on and remove the rear bumper. First, disconnect the license plate lights. Jeez Louise. Alright, next step. Loosen but do not remove all body mounting bolts. Now, you know, I was afraid there was 2. I found 8, so there's 4 back here, 2 in the front floorboard, that's 6, 2 in the front by the radiator, that's 8. Kit came with 10. All right, the other 2 are right there and right there. But I found a nickel in here, made the whole thing worthwhile. Now, these instructions are very specific and very clear that you should not use an impact wrench to get these body mounting bolts loose. Something about you could, I don't know, ruin something, strip something, I don't know. Make sure you don't use an impact wrench. See? Don't do it. So it's sad to report that the actual footage of me removing the body mounting bolts, jacking the truck up, and actually putting the 3-inch blocks under there, the footage has gotten accidentally deleted. So let me walk you through what I did. I think the last time I left off, the instruction was to loosen but do not remove all of the body mounting bolts, which I did. Now I'm going to tell you that the little instruction about do not use the impact wrench, you can toss that, because there is no way you're going to get all of those body mounting bolts out without using an impact wrench. And I don't see what the problem is with using it. I mean, we're not reusing the bolts. The lift kit comes with new bolts. I don't really see anything to damage now. They all came out pretty good except for two. The one that's up under the passenger feet in the front, that one it didn't want to come out. It got out part of the way, and then the actual rubber bushing started spinning, and that bushing has a threaded insert. So you had to get under there with the dreaded death wheel, or most people call it an angle grinder. Had to cut into it, give it a little relief. Anyway, we finally got that out. And then this one back here in the back on the driver's side corner, back corner, that one was the same way. But after dealing with the one under the passenger feet, I knew what to do there. So the next instruction after loosen all of them but do not remove them was to jack up the passenger side of the truck, remove all of the body mounting bolts on the passenger side, jack up only the body of the truck just high enough to get your spacers or your blocks in there, and that's it right there. This is the top part of your body mounting bushing from the factory. There's two pieces. The bottom piece, which is you have to snake around to find the bottom piece. The bottom piece is what's threaded, which makes it incredibly difficult when the thing starts spinning under there and you can't get the bolt loose. How in the world do you get to it? Well, you just have to use your imagination. So, like I said, I only had trouble with two, and thank goodness they were where I could actually get to them. If this one had spun, there's no way that I could get to it. There's a little access cover right here, and that's what that's for, is so you can actually see the bottom part of this. But I mean, there's no way to actually get in there and put a wrench on it or a pair of vice grips or anything like that. But so you jack the truck up just enough to get these blocks in. Push the blocks in. You come back around to the hole. You take your nice new bolt that came with the kit, put some thread locker on it, because once you cover all this back up, you don't have to fool with it again if it comes loose. So put you some thread locker on it and go as many ooga boogas as you can squeeze out. I did them as tight as I could possibly get them. So you do that all the way down the passenger side. The one on the back, easy to get to. The two in the back actually is very easy to get to. This one, not so bad. And actually this one wasn't so bad. If it hadn't have gotten stuck and started spinning, it wouldn't have been bad. Then you have the two on the front. Now these are a little bit of a different animal. What you have to do with these is the bottom piece on these are not threaded. The top piece is threaded. Now you have to take this top piece that's threaded, and you have to take it inside your shop, put it in your vise, and you have to drill the threads out with a 1/2 inch drill bit. because your new bolt is going to go into the bottom. It needs to be able to slide all the way through there, all the way through your block. And then there's a nut with a big flat washer that's actually from the factory that was in here. And that's what you're gonna tighten your bolt with. So yeah, drilling that out with a 1/2-inch drill bit, that was pretty tough because I didn't have a good 1/2-inch drill bit. I had a couple of pieces of junk, and thank goodness I had a drill bit sharpener. And if you have a shop, I would highly recommend you invest in one of those. It's very easy to use, and I sharpened it once for each side because by the time I got one drilled, I had ruined it again. Put it back in there, sharpened it again for the other side. So, jack it up just enough to get your blocks in. Get your blocks in there, plus thread locker on the threads of your bolts. Now, I did an extra step, and I would recommend this too. Those bolts, factory and the new ones, are a 12 millimeter, 12 by 1.75, 1.5, something like that. You need to buy you a tap because the ones where you're going to reuse the threaded portion of the body mount, you know, the bottom portion that's threaded. When you slide your nice new bolt down in there with your thread locker on it, you don't want anything to start spinning in there. You don't want threads to get hung up or anything like that. And yeah, there's a little rust and a little corrosion on some of those threads. So you need to get you a tap. And once I got this bolt all the way out, the factory bolt, get it all the way out, I pulled this cover off, and I had to get a wood chisel to separate the top part from the bottom part. I got the bottom part out, and I re-tapped the threads, chased the threads, as some people say. That cleaned them out so that when I put my new bolt in with the thread locker, it's threading in, it's screwed in nice and easy. So nothing was binding up and nothing started spinning and turning. So that was an extra step I did, but I would highly recommend that. So we did the passenger side, lowered it down. You say, well, how do you jack the body up? Well, on this particular truck, I've got these factory running boards, and there's some brackets that go from the body. See if I can get you under here. You see those brackets? I put my floor jack. I put 3 scrap pieces of 2x4 blocks on top of my floor jack, and I put it right up under that bracket right there. And so that's how I lifted the body. I jacked it up just high enough to get those blocks in there. One thing you want to pay very close attention to, and I really didn't have a problem on this truck, but brake lines. You know, as you start jacking on that body, your brake booster, your stop mechanism, that's all attached to the body. So as you're lifting the body, that's coming up. Well, the other end that they're attached to, that's attached to the frame. So you have to be extremely careful. Jack it up a little bit and then come check your brake lines. You know, you can see that, you know, from the factory, you know, they got all kinds of little bends and, you know, Z-shaped bends and all that. So there is some flexibility. These are a little flexible, not a lot, but you know, you can see, how that's kind of at an angle going down. Well, that's from the stress of me jacking the body up. Now there's no leaks, you know, it's not enough to damage anything. So just be careful with that. You only want to jack it up enough to get those blocks under there. I got all the bolts tightened as tight as I could get them. and I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, so that's as far as I'm going to get today. But there's lots more instructions that came with it. So all this stuff that we took loose in preparation to lift the body, you know, we got to put all that back. And there's some more hardware in this kit. I'll take you in here and show you. I'm not sure what it's all for. I'm sure some of it may be for, you know, that front bumper. I mean, that thing's got to come up too. I'm not sure how they're going to do that, but maybe that's what these are for. Maybe that's for the front bumper. I don't know. We got this bracket here. What's that for? I have no idea. We got a piece of a heater hose. What's that for? Don't know. Washers, nuts, bolts, some kind of weird, you know, double-sided, I don't know. Got some zip ties. What's that for? I have no idea. We got a lot more steps to go through, and we will. Well, I'll walk you through them as long as I don't delete the footage again. So anyway, that's what we've got so far. Just wanted to show you guys. All right, the next step is for the body frame ground wire that we removed. Of course, now use the factory screw there, mount it back to the body, and the strap will not reach the hole anymore because the body is higher than the frame. So they provided this little angle bracket. That's the next step. Done. Next step. Okay, the next step was the negative, well, part of the wiring loom that's attached to the battery up there. This is your negative connection for the battery. There was a bracket that was bolted to the frame, and so one of the steps when we started this was to unbolt it, move it out of the way, and they did provide another one of those angle brackets, but it wasn't working for my situation. So I had a short ground cable that was bought for another project that didn't get used, so I just went ahead and used it here. So I'm grounded, zip tied it back to the wiring harness right here. It's not the most attractive thing in the world, but nobody's going to see it once we get all this stuff covered up. The inside splash guard I took off so that I could see all this better, and also when we start pulling off the valve covers, we can actually get to those lower bolts better from under here. Once I put that splash guard back, if it doesn't cover this up, then I can fashion some extensions for the splash guards. You can purchase, they're called gap guards, and you can purchase those. They don't come with the lift kit, which is, you know, that's crazy because, I mean, you're going to need something to cover up any gaps that's left. I mean, you just raised the body 3 inches, so there's going to be some gaps, and you certainly don't want to drive down the road with people seeing that. So 2 little pieces of plastic for the back, 2 little pieces of plastic for the front was $120. So that doesn't fit with my system either. So we're gonna find some old belting, something that's already black that we can clean up, and we may pop rivet that thing in there, but we are going to fashion something to cover those gaps up, and it's not going to cost anything. I've got a buddy that's got the belting. I've got plenty of pop rivets, so we'll do that. Anyway, those 2 steps are done. Next step. Okay, the next step was a very lengthy and involved step, because if you're putting the fan shroud back, the tabs that the bottom of the fan shroud sit in, which is right here, there's a great deal of instruction on how to move those, because you are going to have to move them since the body is now off of the frame. Your fan, which is attached to the motor, is not going to be where it needs to sit inside the shroud, so the shroud has to be moved. We're doing electric fans on this one, so we're not going to be putting the fan shroud back in the fan, so I can't show you none of that because it's like a half a page of stuff you got to do to mess with that, you know. So not doing that. But anyway, that was the next step. Let's see what's next. All right, the next step is to remount your transmission cooler and your power steering cooler back to the locations here on the body. It's not that they moved a whole lot, or it's not that the distance between them and the body moved a whole lot. It's just as you're jacking one side and you're jacking the other side, you want to get these things all cocked. And so the lines, especially the power steering cooler, you know, you've got some flexible lines, and then you've got the metal lines, aluminum lines. These lines can bend, so it said to gently bend them so that it goes back in place, and then the next step has something to do with the line that's rubbing on the gearbox. Apparently that's what the heater hose was sent for. So let's get these bolted back gently, and then we'll see what that next step is with dealing with that heater hose. Okay, we've got the coolers attached, transmission cooler, power steering cooler. Transmission cooler went back no problem. I didn't have any issues with it. The power steering cooler, you know, it wants to act like the lines are too short, but just be gentle with it. Attach those 2 bolts at the bottom, and then these lines are very flexible. They're aluminum, you know, just go easy with it. And I pushed them a little bit, relieved, you know, that tension on them, and everything's good down there. Now the next step involved the heater hose and the 2 zip ties. It said to cut this heater hose lengthwise, wrap it around the line that is touching the gearbox, and secure with the zip ties. Well, I don't have any lines. Now the ones that, if I can get, now this line was kind of laying in there, and I guess it was touching, but it was doing that before. All I did was raise it up just a little bit so it wasn't touching. I don't have anything else touching the gearbox. Do you guys see what I'm missing? I don't see anything else touching the gearbox. That one laying down here on the side, it's not touching. So I'm not sure what they're talking about there. Looked at it from the bolt top and the bottom, and you know, nothing. I can move everything and nothing's touching. So next step. All right, if you'll remember the step where we took the gas cap off, we loosened the 3 bolts holding the filler neck. It said after the lift, the filler hose will need to be adjusted. Well, there's the hose. You got a metal line, you know, where you put the gas in at the filler neck. It goes all the way down. It's bolted to the body right there. It was all the way down. Before it hits the fuel tank, it turns into a hose. It's a special hose for gas, whatnot. Anyway, mine doesn't appear to be in the best of shape, so I've ordered a new hose. So instead of making any modifications and adjustments to this thing, which, you know, she looks like she's pretty brittle. I'm gonna just replace that hose, and then I can make it a little bit longer The instructions say to pull a little bit, pull a little bit from this end, pull a little bit from that end, making sure it's still connected, and voila. No, I don't think so. I'm just begging for a lot of heartache and a leak. So we're just going to take a new hose. We're going to cut it, I don't know, 3 inches longer, mount it, and she'll be good. So stay tuned. Okay, it's time to put the rear bumper back on, and it came with these little brackets, the new silver ones right there. You basically put them so that you have a new bolt here, and basically your bumper is now going to mount here. So you're basically moving your bumper up to 3 inches for the 3-inch body lift. So new bolt, stock studs that's in the bumper. You put your stock nuts on those, essentially just raising your bumper up to 3 inches. Of course, my hitch is mounted to the frame, so it will not be moving up 3 inches. So yes, it's going to be in the same spot. So we'll have a larger gap between the hitch and the bumper, but it is what it is. So let me get this bumper mounted for you, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, I've got the rear bumper back on. Just want to make sure the gap, you get it bolted up before you tighten everything down. Make sure your gap is fairly equal on each side. Pick your point of reference here. There's a little lip on the black trim, and my top of my bumper lines up with that, and basically the same there. Make sure your gaps about equal there. Make sure the overhang from your bumper is about equal on each side, because those brackets do provide for a little this way and a little this way adjustment. So well, that's it. And also the rod, you can see my spare tire in there. So it's on one of those winches. You have to crank it down, and so I did have to drill me a new hole for the rod, that you turn to crank your spare down. The original hole is right here in this black trim. You probably can't see it, but as we raise the body, we're no longer in alignment with the spare tire winch that's bolted under there. So you're gonna have to drill a new hole so that you can stay in line with your spare tire winch. That bumper's pretty hard metal, so I had to use a cobalt drill bit to get through there first and get it started. Then I moved up to a 1/2-inch drill bit, and then I had to ream that out a little bit with the Dremel tool, because the rod that you crank your spare down with, it's flared at the end because it slips inside of a slot in that winch. So anyway, all I got to do now is put the tag on, and the rear will be complete. Got my spare tire cranked under there. Everything else attached. Next is going to be the front bumper, getting that wrapped up, and it'll be basically the same process. It came with 2 more brackets, and we'll do the same thing with it on the front. So let me get around there to that, and we'll get you in there with me. We got the front bumper on after many trials, many errors. The front bumper is not as easy to get on as the back bumper, mainly because the supports for the front bumper, they're not just nice and straight for that nice little bracket to go on. They're kind of, a little bent, like formed that way from the factory. But you have to use some imagination. You're gonna have to drill some extra holes. You know, it's nothing it's nothing I can show you that you're not going to see for yourself once you start to put it on. You know, the bracket's not nice and plumb. You gotta make it plumb. You're gonna have to buy a couple of bolts, drill a couple of holes, stack a couple of washers. But eventually, she looks great. Perfectly lined up. Gap's nice and even on both sides. Looks awesome. The tow hooks I bought, this particular truck didn't come with tow hooks, so there's not an allowance for attaching the ones I've got. So I'll probably end up welding those on. May make another video of that, I don't know, but we'll get those on, and probably welding is going to be what we do. So really appreciate you guys watching. Hope you didn't sleep through the whole video. Do me a favor and subscribe. Hit the like button, thumbs up. Also hit the notification bell, let you know when new videos are coming out or have come out. So let me know what you think. Drop some comments, whatever. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and see you next time.